The Battle of Kursk was not simply the largest tank battle in history. It was the moment warfare crossed a threshold. It marked the point where speed, maneuver, and tactical brilliance were no longer enough to win wars on their own. At Kursk, industrial capacity, intelligence dominance, battlefield preparation, and the ability to absorb and replace losses became the decisive factors of victory. Fought in July of 1943 between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, Kursk was the final strategic offensive Germany would ever attempt on the Eastern Front. Everything after Kursk was a reaction. Every German movement from that moment forward was defensive, improvised, and ultimately doomed. To understand why Kursk matters, you have to understand that it was not meant to be a defensive battle at all. It was intended to be Germany's comeback. It was designed to erase the humiliation of Stalingrad, restore the initiative, and reassert German dominance in the East. Instead, it became the battle that permanently broke Germany's ability to wage offensive war. What happened at Kursk did not stay in 1943. The principles proven there still shape how modern militaries think about defense, attrition, intelligence, and large-scale combat operations today. By early 1943, Germany was in crisis. The destruction of the Sixth Army at Stalingrad was more than a battlefield defeat. It was a strategic and psychological catastrophe. Hundreds of thousands of experienced troops were gone. Entire formations ceased to exist. German allies began to question Berlin's leadership. For the first time, the German army had suffered an annihilation on a scale it could not hide or explain away. Yet Adolf Hitler refused to accept a defensive posture. He believed that retreat invited collapse. He believed that Germany's only chance was to strike again, regain the initiative, and force the Soviet Union back onto the defensive. The Eastern Front at this time featured a massive protrusion in the Soviet line known as the Kursk salient. This bulge extended westward into German-held territory, creating an apparent vulnerability. To German planners, it looked like an opportunity. If they could attack the salient from both the north and south, they could encircle Soviet forces inside and destroy them in a single decisive operation. That operation was given the name Operation Citadel. Operation Citadel was built around a classic double envelopment. German forces would attack from the north, spearheaded by Army Group Center, while a second force attacked from the south under Army Group South. The two pincers would meet near Kursk, trapping multiple Soviet armies and eliminating them. To make this work, Germany concentrated its remaining elite armored formations. These included heavy Tiger tanks, the newly introduced Panther tanks, and Ferdinand tank destroyers. These vehicles represented the cutting edge of German armored technology. In theory, they could outgun and outarmor anything the Soviets fielded. German commanders believed that superior equipment and experienced crews would compensate for their numerical disadvantage. They believed that if they could punch through quickly, Soviet defenses would collapse as they had earlier in the war. What they failed to understand was that the Soviets knew everything. Soviet intelligence penetration before Kursk was unprecedented. Through reconnaissance flights, intercepted radio traffic, partisan reports, and foreign intelligence sources, Soviet leadership gained a remarkably clear picture of German intentions. They knew where the attacks would come from. They knew the general timing. They knew the composition of German forces. They even knew that Germany was waiting to deploy new armored vehicles in large numbers. This intelligence advantage allowed Soviet commanders to make one of the most consequential decisions of the war. They would not attack first. Instead, they would prepare. Rather than attempting to stop the Germans at the front line, the Soviets chose to absorb the blow. They constructed the most extensive defensive system ever created up to that point in military history. Multiple defensive belts were built in depth, stretching as far as 150 miles behind the front. These belts were not symbolic. They were engineered killing zones. Each belt contained dense minefields, anti-tank ditches, barbed wire, trenches, bunkers, and artillery positions. Infantry strongpoints were carefully sited to cover likely avenues of approach. Artillery was pre-registered. Anti-tank guns were concealed. Entire regions were reshaped to favor the defender. This approach rejected the idea of a single decisive line. Instead, it embraced attrition as a strategy. German forces would be slowed, fragmented, and exhausted long before they reached their objectives. Every kilometer gained would cost tanks, fuel, crews, and time. Germany could not afford that trade. When Operation Citadel began on July 5, 1943, German forces advanced into a battlefield that had already been decided in principle. Initial assaults made some gains, but progress was painfully slow. Minefields crippled armored columns. Engineers were forced forward under fire to clear paths. Anti-tank guns engaged German vehicles at close range. Artillery fire disrupted formations before they could mass. German commanders quickly realized that this was not another blitzkrieg. The Soviets were not collapsing. They were absorbing. The most famous clash of the battle occurred near Prokhorovka. Often described as the largest tank battle in history, it was chaotic, violent, and brutally close range. Hundreds of tanks fought at distances measured in meters. Dust, smoke, and confusion eliminated long-range advantages. Command and control broke down. The battlefield became a grinding test of endurance. German tanks were often superior on paper, but they were fighting in the worst possible conditions. Narrow corridors, mines, and prepared defenses negated their technological advantages. Soviet losses were enormous, but they were replaceable. German losses were not. What truly decided Kursk was not a single engagement or tactical decision. It was industrial reality. The Soviet Union was producing tanks, artillery, and ammunition at a rate Germany could not match. Soviet factories operated beyond the reach of German bombers. Replacement crews continued to flow to the front. Germany, by contrast, was bleeding irreplaceable assets. Every destroyed tank represented months of production. Every lost crew was a blow that could not be undone. Attrition favored the Soviets, and Kursk was designed to maximize it. By mid-July, German offensive capability was exhausted. Facing Allied operations in Italy and mounting losses in the east, Hitler canceled Operation Citadel. The moment the Germans stopped attacking, the Soviets went on the offensive. Massive counteroffensives pushed German forces westward. The initiative was gone forever. After Kursk, Germany never launched another major offensive on the Eastern Front. The war became a long retreat toward Berlin. Kursk marked the transition from maneuver warfare to industrialized attritional warfare as the dominant model of large-scale conflict. The lessons of Kursk remain foundational today. Defense in depth, intelligence preparation of the battlefield, shaping operations, and attrition are core principles of modern doctrine. Modern concepts such as anti-access strategies, layered air defenses, and multi-domain operations all trace their roots back to Kursk. The Battle of Kursk was not just a clash of tanks. It was the moment modern war revealed its true nature. And once revealed, there was no going back.